Coming up on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now, Chase Sr. here with you. Thanks for hanging out here on the program. Could Eagles offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo get an NFL head coaching job after this year? I know it sounds crazy, but we're going to talk through it on the back half of the show. Also going to take your questions for a mailbag. A programming reminder. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Join us. Hit that bell icon and turn on your notifications. Therefore, anytime I push out a video like this, anytime we go live, you'll get that notification, and that'll be the case on Sunday when we go live for our Eagles-Cowboys watch party. The best place to experience an Eagles game day outside of being at the actual game. We'll do a nearly 90-minute pregame show, so we'll catch you live on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it, and I hope to see all of the real ones and the legends there. And how about this? Kevin Patullo's name. Not a popular one in Philadelphia right now. A lot of people have a lot of negative things to say about him in the city of brotherly love and for Eagles fans everywhere. But his name is emerging as a head coaching candidate for this upcoming cycle after the 2025 season. Why this is surprising? As we know, the Eagles offense here this season has not been great. And when you think about Patullo, the way that he calls games, his play calling sequencing, play calling rhythm, or the lack thereof, the scheme that him and Nick Sirianni are running, it doesn't scream exotic, creative, and modern day. You don't watch this Eagles offense right now and say, yeah, this is like a Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan offense. No, instead you're like, right now, what do they do well? They don't play elite football throwing it. They don't excel running it. What identity do they have right now? Even last year, from a schematic play design, play calling standpoint under Kellen Moore, it's not like this Eagles offense was one that you would want to hand out to a bunch of college and high school coaches and say, run this offense, it'll work for you because it's revolutionary. The pass game concepts under Patullo, pretty vanilla. The Eagles' tendencies, pretty predictable. And we're talking about a first-year head coach here who hasn't blown any of us away. So that's why it would be surprising if Patullo got a head coaching job and why his name is being thrown out there. Why this isn't surprising. Kevin Patullo is Nick Sirianni's right-hand man, and he's been his right-hand man and close confidant for a long time. Right now, across the NFL, the Eagles are the model organization. Everybody wants to be in the Eagles' shoes right now. While this offensive system isn't one that you would call zesty, fun to watch, and sexy, Nick Sirianni certainly wins a lot. And you know what other bad teams want to do? They want to win. And they are desperate to win at the clip that the Eagles are winning at. And they want some type of ingredients of what Nick Sirianni has to offer. And so teams will try to poach coaches from the top teams and coaching staffs and organizations across the NFL. And Patullo has been alongside Nick Sirianni his entire tenure in Philadelphia, as Sirianni has gone 56-22 as the Eagles head coach. That is good for a winning percentage of 71.8%. Second highest winning percentage behind John Madden since the NFL merger. Every year that Nick Sirianni has been the head coach of this football team, outside of 2021, the Eagles have won double-digit games. That year they won 9, made the playoffs in a rebuilding year. So this is an organization that pretty much is winning double-digit games every single season, especially on average. And Nick Sirianni's tree. Shane Steichen doing a damn good job with the Colts. What he's done in rehabbing the career of Daniel Jones, very impressive. Jonathan Gannon with Arizona, that team's been pretty competitive, and they've been pretty solid, and I actually like what Gannon's been able to do as a head coach. And so Sirianni has a good head coaching tree working right now. Now, how Patullo's name has popped up here, Tom Pelissero, NFL Network, always puts together this list of young candidates to know who could become head coaches soon. And so this year, Pelissero put together a list of 24 young candidates to follow. Teams obviously always looking for the next offensive mind. Kevin Patullo, an offensive mind, and there will be multiple openings. There have already been a couple of teams who have fired their head coaches. New York Giants, Tennessee Titans. Other jobs that could become available, a team like the Atlanta Falcons. And so there will be some jobs out there where Patullo could be a viable candidate, especially if the Eagles win another Super Bowl and this offense starts to find a groove. Here is what Pelissero said about Patullo's candidacy. A former quarterback and receiver at South Florida. I think that's also important. Sees the game from that lens. Patullo has held all kinds of titles. Offensive quality control, quarterback coach, wide receiver coach, pass game coordinator, associate head coach, and leadership roles since entering the league as a quality control coach with the Chiefs all the way back in 2007. He has been on Nick Sirianni's staff since their days in Indy and has been exposed to all parts of building the program, helping prepare him for whenever his opportunity comes. Now in his first year as offensive coordinator, he's faced scrutiny as the Eagles' offense has scuffled to find its footing in a market that can be as tough as any when things aren't going well. But the Eagles still rank in the top half of the league in scoring at 23.4 points per game, 16th, thanks in part to an NFL best 75% red zone touchdown percentage, and they sit comfortably atop the NFC East at 8-2. Two of Sirianni's last three coordinators, Shane Steichen, Kellen Moore, landed head coaching jobs. If the Eagles keep winning, it only makes sense that teams will at least consider making Patullo the third. Obviously, as part of Nick Sirianni's coaching tree, I didn't include Kellen Moore on there because Kellen Moore spent 1 year with Nick Sirianni, and he had been a high-level coordinator before, whereas Sirianni made Steichen and Gannon known as coordinators, making them head coaching candidates. Kellen Moore interviewed for the Eagles job in 2021, for instance. So is he a part of the Nick Sirianni coaching tree? I wouldn't say that, but he did get a head coaching job because of what he did directly with the Philadelphia Eagles. And so that's why Patullo and his name might pop up for some of these head coaching gigs. Now, obviously, there is some good and there is some bad to Patullo. Some of the good we talked about. Some of the bad, we've documented it. In my experiences around him, I interviewed him, I think, twice during the Super Bowl week. He speaks like a head coach. He carries himself like a head coach. He has leadership qualities. I think what Pelissero pointed out as far as him building the program is something that a team that is desperate to win would really like. And you can tell in talking to Kevin Patullo that from a strategy standpoint, from a scheme standpoint, overall offensive philosophy standpoint, like the guy knows offensive football. He also credited Chan Gailey for being his offensive influence. Now, Chan Gailey wasn't the most explosive, exotic offensive mind, and so maybe that is a negative to Patullo, but Chan Gailey was well regarded for a long time in a lot of NFL circles, and the experience factor is important. Guy's been around coaching since 2007. And you look at how this Eagles offense stacks up. As Pelissero pointed out, 16th in points per game, 25th in yards per game, 24th in yards per play, 29th on third downs. Not great, right? They are number one in the red zone, and it's not just because of the tush push. And you look at some of the other numbers here. Yards per rush, Eagles 25th in the NFL. Rushes per game, they run it a lot. 6th in the NFL. Rushing yards per game in a down year, they're still in that halfway margin area, of the NFL. The passing attack, lackluster. Pass play percentage, 31st. Completion rate, 13th. Yards per pass, 10th. Passes per game, 31st. Passing yards per game, 28th. It's not great. But then the offensive EPA rankings, the expected points added, Eagles are 15th. Passing EPA, they're 12th. Rushing EPA, they're 20th. I'll also say this about this Eagles team. They really like to peak late as compared to early. And at times under Sirianni, it has taken them a little while to find their identity. Hopefully, maybe, that's what's happening this year. If Patullo does leave, it will be yet another play caller and offensive coordinator for Jalen Hurts. This list is crazy. And the fact that Hurts has been able to find success despite this, pretty nutty, right? I mean, he's had a different play caller every year since 2016. Another reason why Patullo could get a head coaching job, I think Eagles fans will watch this Eagles offense and say, this offense is absolutely atrocious. But then you think about what Hurts has been able to do this year, and other teams might look at this and say, Kevin Patullo maybe couldn't maximize our quarterback that we have that hasn't been maximized before. Or if we draft a quarterback, Kevin Patullo can help out that QB. Because Hurts statistically ranks pretty highly among all quarterbacks in the NFL. 11th in yards per attempt, 6th in air yards per attempt, 5th in true passer rating, 8th in QBR, 10th in true completion rate, 5th in deep ball completion rate, number 1, pressure completion percentage, number 4, completion rate versus man, 12th, completion rate versus zone, number 3, passer rating versus man, number 12, passer rating versus zone. And so teams are always looking for that offensive mind, but also that quarterback whisperer as well. Funny enough, I know that I'm always a fan of having coaching staff continuity. Many Eagles fans would be elated, and they would probably buy Kevin Patullo's plane ticket to leave the Philadelphia Eagles, and they'd be happy if he did leave. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, a lot of football to play here in 2025, but Patullo's name, one to watch to land a potential head coaching job. Coming up next here on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now, we're going to take all of your Eagles-related questions for a Q&A, but I do want to get to our sponsor real quick. Today's Philadelphia Eagles Now, brought to you by Prize Picks. The hard-hitting football action, even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right, it never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Prize Picks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. You want to pick more on Jalen Hurts' pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns. Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup, only on Prize Picks. Follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app. Copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just somebody whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. 3-pick power play for Sunday's Eagles-Cowboys game. A.J. Brown, more than 60.5 receiving yards. George Pickens, more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown. Saquon Barkley, more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, here we go. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr., excited to open up the floor and talk birds with all of you. We're going to do a little bit of a mailbag where we take questions from all of the real ones and the legends who watch this show. And this is another reminder and reason why you got to hit that subscribe button so that you can be involved with our show. Evan Foley gets us started with a $5 super chat. With Lane Johnson being out, do you think this gives Jeff Stoutland and the offensive line a push to get things together, or is the run game just cooked this year? That's a really good question. Lane Johnson is a special one-of-one player. I think he's going to go down as one of the best overall players in the history of this Eagles organization. Over time, the Eagles have really struggled to win games when Lane Johnson has been hurt. They're just so much of a better offense when he's on the field. Of late, though, the last 2 years, thanks to Fred Johnson being a pretty viable backup swing tackle, they have been better without Lane. Can an injury force people to focus more? Yes. Can an injury to a marquee player lead to an increase in focus and less penalties and focusing on your assignment because you know there's less of a margin for error? No doubt about it. And I do think that's been a big reason why this Eagles offensive line has struggled this year. There have been so many self-inflicted wounds, so many uncharacteristic penalties, so many mistakes where the Eagles either commit a penalty up front or they miss a block, and it leads to them playing behind the sticks. And that puts you in a disadvantageous position, right? When you go from 1st and 10 and you can run for 7 yards to make it 2nd and 3, then you commit a penalty and it becomes a 1st and 15. Or on a 3rd and 5, you move the chains, but then a penalty knocks you back to 3rd and 10. That obviously changes that play, right? But it changes your play calling for that next play when the down and distance is in that long situation, right? And Patullo talked about that this week, that when the Eagles are in a groove, when they are in rhythm, They're a really good offense. But as soon as things start to go awry and unravel, they struggle to kick it back into gear. So Fred Johnson is a good player. Obviously, he's not Lane Johnson. But for the other members along this Eagles offensive line, do they look at the Lane Johnson injury and say, we got to bring it, especially on Sunday against the likes of Kenny Clark, Osa Odigizua, and Quinnen Williams, especially against the likes of DeMarvion Overshown, especially against a Cowboys team that wants to eat our lunch after we beat them in week 1, and it's a fierce division rival. So maybe, I'm hopeful. The other thing, too, is the offensive line cooked this year. Jordan Mailata said something a long time ago about how it took him so long to recover from last year compared to prior years because the Eagles ran the ball so much, and it took a physical toll on their bodies. I think physically, they haven't been the same this year. And health-wise, they haven't been the same. Landon Dickerson, banged up. Cam Jurgens, banged up. Lane Johnson, in and out of the lineup. I think running-wise, they missed Mekhi Becton because he was an absolute mauler at right guard. And I think Tyler Steen has played okay, but he's not as big and as physical as Mekhi Becton is. And a lot of Saquon's success last year was running behind Mekhi Becton. And what provides context and evidence for an offensive line that is struggling, yards before contact. Saquon last year to this year, down by a full yard. That's an offensive line problem. They need to be better, Evan. Thanks for that super chat. Peter Thurman, with so many players eligible for extensions, will this affect us trying to re-sign Jaelan Phillips? No doubt about it. And Jaelan Phillips has been an incredible player in his first 2 games with the Eagles. He keeps playing like that. There's a team out there who will be in need of a pass rusher who will pay him at least $25 million per year, and the Eagles won't be able to afford that because players who are up for contract extensions, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Reed Blankenship, Nolan Smith, Dallas Goedert will be an unrestricted free agent, Braden Mann, the punter, who's been awesome, going to be a free agent. And so for this year, it's great that Howie made that move. If Jaelan Phillips leaves to go somewhere else, you gave up a third for him. You get a third-round compensatory pick back, which I think went into the strategy for Howie to make that move. But, yeah, how many players are contract extension eligible? How many players are going to be free agents will impact if Phillips is back or not. Another thing, too, just like how Howie has had to budget for these looming extensions, he's going to have to do that moving forward for the likes of Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. So keep that in mind as we move forward. Great question, Peter. You obviously know ball and the inner workings of how a football team works from a financial standpoint. Good stuff. Kenny, when is the Eagles offense going to set it up and stop running on first and second down, then throwing on third downs, then punt? Both Nick and Kevin need to get it together. I totally hear you. And obviously there are splits for what the Eagles are doing in certain situations down in distance. And there is credence and there is evidence backing up what you mentioned here. I think the overall point that you bring about here, this Eagles offense gets to a point where they are very predictable. And this is in a variety of ways, right? It can be down in distance that they're either going to pass or throw. It can be the alignment of Saquon Barkley. If the Eagles are in the pistol earlier in the year, they were running it. Chad Ochocinco said something this week. He knows that depending on where A.J. Brown lines up, whether it be inside the hash, outside the hash, what route he is going to run. And I think the Eagles have worked on this by running more plays from under center. And that leads to play action throws. It leads to runs. And it makes you more taxing to defend. But even when the Eagles are under center, sometimes they can get really predictable. On these third and longs, I think the Eagles still lead the league in runs on third and longs. That's them kind of conceding and saying, we'll punt it away. We'll rely on our special teams and our defense. And that's a really frustrating brand of football to watch. It's worked, but I don't think it's sustainable because at some point in the playoffs, your defense or in the regular season is going to have a down game. And this Eagles offense will have to bring it. And that's why everybody is pressing on the Eagles to make these improvements on offense. Because if you can get to a point where you're a more balanced football team and the Eagles offense can play up to its caliber, there ain't a team across the NFL that can beat this Eagles team when they're playing their best football. Harry McCown, Chase, do you think the Eagles have a problem with promoting coaching from within the organization, as it seems when they promote a coaching or a coach from within the organization, they struggle? I mean, Shane Steichen got internally promoted when Nick Sirianni gave up play calling, and he was amazing in 2021 and in 2022, especially in 2022. Probably the best passing year that Jalen Hurts has had in his career. But Brian Johnson did not work. Kevin Patullo, up to this point, it's been a frustrating experience. They didn't internally promote Sean Desai. He was an external guy. They wanted Vic Fangio. Well, because Jonathan Gannon kind of effed them over, Fangio went to the Dolphins. And the Eagles said, well, Sean Desai is a Vic Fangio disciple, so we'll go Desai because we want to run the Vic Fangio type of defense. So there are definitely some cases of internal promotions not working out, mostly on offense with Brian Johnson and Kevin Patullo. I will say this. I hope Vic Fangio is around for a long time. I hope defensive backs coach Christian Parker is around for a long time. If Vic Fangio decided to retire at some point over the next couple of years and Christian Parker was still on this staff, I would want to internally promote him because I think he's a rising star. Now, if Fangio's here for a few years, I think Parker will go somewhere else because I think that he could be a DC as soon as next year. But that's an example of an internal promotion that I think would actually work out on defense. The Thunderhounds, do you think that we are re-signing Dallas Goedert this offseason? That is a very viable question to ask and a smart one to ask. Dallas Goedert is having a career year. He has already set a career best for touchdown catches in a single season. He's been able to stay healthy for the most part, even though he's gotten a little bit banged up this season. I think the Eagles' concerns with him is the inability to stay healthy and his previous price tag, because he was a top 5 highest paid tight end in football. And I think with the year that he's having right now, there will be a team that is willing to pay Dallas Goedert after this season because he's one of the best all-around tight ends in football. Pass catching, picking up yak, and being a blocker in the pass game and in the run game. He is up there with George Kittle as one of the better all-around tight ends in football. But from the Eagles' standpoint, he's probably going to demand $10+ million per year, and he's an older player who's been hurt a lot. I think what the Eagles might do instead, draft a tight end early. They have a history of drafting and developing really good tight ends. Brent Selleck, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert of late, Chad Lewis back in the day. And they reset financially, and they get a younger player who can give them what Goedert has given them. That'd be a tough loss, though, because I'll say this, like, Goedert has put together a great legacy as an Eagles player. He's number 2 in franchise history in receiving yards behind Devontae Smith. He was number 1 before Smitty had a big game in the Super Bowl. He's made so many clutch plays for this Eagles team. I mean, that play last year in the wild card round against Green Bay, the anger run and the stiff arm, huge play. Against the Rams, against the Commanders, he was also really good. This year, Jalen Hurts wanted him back, and you can see why. They have a great connection and rapport. But he just might be too expensive when, as we talked about earlier, a lot of marquee players are extension eligible, and they're going to be due some big-time dollars. All right, good mailbag here today. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You are all the best. I truly mean it. Smartest, most passionate fans in football, and I absolutely love chopping it up with everybody.